Well, here's something different on Email Talk. We have Sturge Decos with us, Manager of Account Growth and Retention here at Zero Bounce. We like to sometimes turn the microphone inward and talk to one of our own. You hear that ticking sound? I hear a tick. Oh, that's you, Serge, because you're one of the people who keeps Zero Bounce ticking. Thank you so much for making time to talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here and chat with you. So excited to get into it.
Absolutely. And thank you for being forgiving of my corniness.
I enjoy it, so it's all good.
Now, Sturge, if you could wave a magic wand and you could make people who use email, whether they're doing cold outreach, they're sending email newsletters, whatever, if you could make them understand one thing, what would that be?
And this is, probably pretty given for, someone who works at Zero Bounce, but email validation. The way I explain it is that it is the foundation of all email sending across, whatever vertical you're in. Like you said, if it's cold outreach, it might even be more important, but any type of email sending that is happening, you want to make sure that you're sending to good and real people, right? There's a lot of things that can happen if you don't. The problems, if you have an email sending problem, the first thing to do is always to make sure that the data is good and healthy and real data. Because if you're not doing that, it gets tougher and tougher to diagnose what the actual issue is. So if I could wave a magic wand, it would be that every single email that any email marketer sends or anyone sending email campaigns is going to good and real data, aka, real inboxes. It would help a ton.
Email people they just love analogies. If you could compare email validation to something else, what is it like?
Yeah. This is a good one. I would say it's like dating. So basically, when you're sending that first email to someone, you want to make a good first impression, right? And if you end up in the spam folder, it's kind of similar to getting ghosted on, when you're first meeting someone. So we just help you make sure that you end up in that inbox and that you have the opportunity to make a good first impression and you're not embarrassing yourself on the first date.
That's I have not heard that one, and that's going to stick with me. I know that for sure. What are the scenarios that you see most where people are knocking on your door or you're talking to people? What happens to people?
Yeah. So we basically handle two types of kind of clients, and I try to bucket it into that for simplicity, right? People that are proactive about the problem with email sending and email validation, and people that are reactive, right? So what I mean by that is people come to us and it falls into one of those two categories. The people being proactive know about email validation. They have a knowledge of it. They understand that they need to do it. And they're coming to us prior to sending emails, right? Because they know that they have to validate their emails. They'll only send to the good email addresses so they don't have problems down the line. They know it's just a thing that you have to do. On the other side, and this is the reactive side, they didn't know about the problem one way or another. It's not, something that's bad or good, but now they're in a position where, they're landing in spam a lot. And they're like, okay, well, what's happening here? They didn't know about email validation. They might think it was as important as it is. And now it's our job to help them get out of spam. So that's kind of the two different types of people that we deal with. Obviously, we deal with a lot of different verticals, a lot of different industries across the board, but that's a much longer list.
Mm-hmm. Now, I really do want to know the answer to this. You don't shame the people when they're not the proactive type and they're on the phone with you.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because they're in a tough position. It really is. A lot of companies, their revenue comes through email. So they're in a really, really tough situation. And yeah, we help them probably more than the people that are proactive about it because there's more to do.
Now, what scenario do you see where somebody is really checking off the boxes? Email validation, that's your first line of, it's like brushing your teeth or any other changing the oil of your car. It's these kind of things. Best case scenario, what are those people doing?
Yeah. So, this is where industry can kind of come into play and what types of emails that you're sending. But number one is just the frequency of the validation, right? Making sure that, okay, you validated your list once, but these types of people are validating their list multiple times a year. So, emails can go stale, especially in the B2B space. That's where you see the most frequency. The recommendation is really like every 3-4 months. You want to go in there, and if you're handling B2B emails, you want to go in and validate. So the people that are doing it really well, especially in that space, are the validation frequency is high. And then, they're also monitoring a lot of different things. You're monitoring if they get up on a blacklist. They're monitoring their inbox placement, where they're ending up in spam, if they're ending up in spam. They have just a bunch of alerts that if something kind of goes wrong, they know what it is and they can fix it. Warm up comes into play as well. If you have a new domain, to go, and you can't just send 100,000 emails on a brand new domain, right? You have to take the steps to get to that volume. And that's where something like warm up can come into play, and warming up your email sending till you get to that volume that you want to be at and you send. But I would say after brushing your teeth, you're just, the frequency of everything is a lot higher with those proactive clients and people.
Right. Like so many things in maintenance, you don't just change the oil in your car one time and say, yeah, I've done it.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned something, email warm up here, and I'm a little biased because I've used it personally, and the difference was night and day. It was like, where am I? What am I doing with my life? And then I used email warm up. All these emails that were just, I wasn't getting responses. I really wasn't. Tell us about that, because it is on more and more people's lips. I keep hearing warm up.
Yeah. And we're seeing it on our end too. A lot of the conversations, like the conversation we're having, what else can you do outside and past validation? It naturally goes into warm up. And what we like to do when that conversation comes up is, first, we have them do an inbox placement test. So you send to our seed list, essentially, and we tell you where you're landing in the inbox, where you're landing in spam. So we kind of get a snapshot of where you're at and where your placement, your inbox placement is. And then on the warm-up side, it naturally leads into that. You basically just connect to your account, and we have a bunch of seed email accounts at the different ISPs, Google, all of those big ones. And we send and receive emails on your behalf through that domain and through that email connected. And basically what we do is we're engaging with those emails that are being sent out. We're opening them up, and then we're sending some back. So it starts to build that sender reputation and or repair it, right? So it's really a case for, if you have a new domain, it could be really useful. That maintenance part that you were talking about as well, having it continuously running, can also be useful. But for those reactive clients that I mentioned, it's really good to repair domains, right? So say you come to us and you're having issues with your domain and issues with sending emails, and you don't want to go out and buy a new domain because, your domain is your lifeline. It's your brand. You've built it up over the years. You can go into warm-up and help repair that domain. And repair that sender reputation from that domain.
Interesting stuff. Now, DMARC, the DMARC monitor tool, a lot of people aren't as familiar with this. Sometimes when we mention it to people, they say, like, who is DMARC? Like, it's D is short for Donald, like, or something. What is it?
It's basically a monitor that, it's kind of like the security aspect of email, right? So we're making sure that everything on the back end is set up properly, and that, there's no issues on sending your emails using that domain. So, as we talked about the different types of steps, validation, then warm up, and then having a monitor and having those checks to see if everything is set up properly, when there's authentication there, everything like that. That's kind of where the DMARC monitor comes into play, alongside, the blacklist monitor as well. There's these different types of data points that you're receiving on those monitors that if something does go wrong, obviously you can check it at first, right? And see if there is anything wrong. But as things, and if things come up, you know that you're covered.
You mentioned the blacklist monitor. and to appear on any blacklist is not a good thing. Any type of blacklist you can think of. How important is something like this? What happens when you're blacklisted? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it essentially really affects your sender reputation. So there's a bunch of bad things that can happen. And the way you get up on a blacklist is from, sending to things like spam traps and just not taking care of the data that you're sending to. And if you end up on there, you're going to end up not in the inbox a lot more often. So as just a simple way of putting it, it's a scary word, and you don't want to be on a blacklist. That's for sure.
Now, Sturge, can you tell me this? If somebody is practicing this routine email validation, if they're doing it quarterly, do they still have to worry about fooling with something like a blacklist monitor tool?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you basically, at that point, you're being very proactive about it. Why not just have that blacklist monitor set up so that if something goes wrong, you can go and fix that part of the process of the system. Especially with automating validation, things like that, a lot of automation and processes. Sometimes things just break, and you want to know when that happens. So, it's basically just like taking care of everything you've built already, and knowing if something goes wrong, that you'll be alerted by it. It's a peace of mind type thing at that point as well.
On the note of proactive things, what can an inbox placement test do for an email marketer?
Yeah. So it can, the way that we like to describe it to our clients is that it gives you a snapshot of where you are at. So if it's your first inbox placement test, you can kind of track your progress of your deliverability and sender reputation through that. So it's going to show you, okay, you ended up in spam for Gmail. That's an issue. Okay. And then all the other big ISPs and places that you're sending, you're good to go. So now you know the issue. Now you know that it's a Gmail issue. And then you can take that and, take actionable steps to go and fix that. And then that's where, like I mentioned before, warm-up comes into play. You can, manage the warm-up yourself and only select to go to Gmails, or you can do obviously through the automation, and we'll detect that. But it's a good way of tracking your progress is the way that I look at it. And I think it's an overlooked tool because it's kind of like the foundation of okay, I've done validation. What's next? And the first thing we like to do is check their inbox placement.
So do you think that the inbox placement test is the most overlooked or the most underrated of our tools?
I would say most underrated for sure, because you can use it in, as, like I said, as like progress. Okay. I did one inbox placement test, 30% was going to spam. Let's go ahead and warm up and repair the domain. So then a month later, I go back in there and I do another inbox placement test, or I'm doing them continuously throughout the month to check up on the status. And now I see that it's only 10% are going to spam. So it really helps you kind of identify that next step of getting your deliverability better.
And what about the email server tester tool? What does that do?
So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. The email server test, it's going to test, that everything's going well on the server side of things. So, it's another good tool that we just have on top of everything else. I would probably go validation. Let's check that foundational aspect of it off. Let's do an inbox placement test. Let's see if we need warm up. And then it kind of is in that same box of the DMARC monitor and blacklist monitor. Those are things that once you are comfortable with the process, let's set it up and see what's going on there.
Now, there are many, many email finder tools out there. Or email finding, there's little things that hook onto your LinkedIn.
Yep.
And as somebody whose job it is to reach out to people, I obviously use the email finder, but this one is different. What is different about the Zero Bounce one?
I mean, it's in the name. It's connected to Zero Bounce. So, that the data coming out of that is good data and a good email. And we have a high confidence that email is, a good one to send to. It kind of combines, different tools like just email finders in general, but you also have the backing of, knowing that it's good data.
Absolutely.
And it kind of takes a step out of the process as well, right? So, typically if you're going in and scraping emails offline, you're like, okay, I have the list that I've scraped. Now I need to go validate it. With
Right.
our email finder, it kind of puts it all into one.
Exactly. I mean, I think I used pretty much all of the email finding services out there.
Yeah.
And most
They're
of them
fun.
include, yeah. And most of them, including a lot of the big name ones, I would see like, okay, let me find this person. I'd look them up and I would see the email address would be at msn.com. And it's like, come on.
There we go.
Right. Or this person had switched a whole bunch of jobs and it would return like 10 of them.
Right.
And it's like, this is useless.
Yeah. And I think what's also neat about ours is that if you can find the first and last name and then the company, not just the company that they're at, but the company domain, which is a unique identifier of, because there's multiple companies that can be similarly named or name the same thing that are in different industries, things like that. But if you can find the domain and have that data point, it's a no-brainer because, like I said, it's unique and it helps identify the exact email a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be a little bit thrilling when you're looking up somebody and then you can tell by the name of their inbox that they are trying to hide. It's like, aha, I found you.
Gotcha.
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha.
Right. Secret place at. Ooh.
Yep.
So for somebody who's hearing us talk about all of these different tools and they're thinking, okay, this is just overwhelming. I thought I was doing my due diligence. I gave the email list a scrub here and there, but now I find out that you can't do it once every 15 months. And now I'm finding out about all these tools. What would you say to that person who feels that way?
I would say let's start, like with anything that seems like a big task, let's break it up into steps, right? Let's take a look at your data, right? That's the first thing that we want to take a look at. Where are you collecting that data? What does it look like? Like I mentioned, if it's in the B2B space, I'd recommend validating that email every 3 months. In the B2C space with more personal emails, they don't turn over as often. So you can get away with validating those every 6 months is typically my recommendation. So I would say, hey, let's just set up a process where that is taken care of. And we have a bunch of really great integrations. So that's a big part of, setting up that process specifically with HubSpot. It's a bunch of great integrations and you can just automatically set that up, right? Through different segments and lists. And let's hop on a call. Let's go through it. Let's get you set up. So that is taken care of. And that's step one, just kind of automating that process. And then we go from there. And then it's okay, that's taken care of. Let's go to step 2. And just breaking it up and making it really simple in each step and just focusing on one thing at a time, especially, in this space, a lot of different terminology, a lot of things that you might not be aware of. It seems very daunting, like you said, and very technical at times. So just taking it step by step. Like I said, with any big goal that you have or big achievement, it's not going to happen overnight, but just focusing on small wins and easy wins.
Well said. So if you tie all these tools together, if somebody is really, they're serious about it, they want to learn how to use all this stuff, they want to, every single spring, summer, fall, winter, they want to clean their list. What does somebody get? What do they get if they do all this work?
They, as simple as it is, they get their messaging in front of more people. And if they're looking to, make money through email, it's a vital thing to do. You almost have to do it. There's no way around it. You can maybe get away with it for a couple months, but it's going to catch up to you. So if email is a channel of revenue for your business or anything that you're doing, it might just not even be revenue, but just exposure that can eventually lead to revenue. That's what you're getting. You're getting another marketing channel that is useful and that can make money for you.
So if you were to compare your time at Zero Bounce to a genre of movie, what would the movie type be?
I'm going to go with thriller. It's definitely a thriller. Yeah. And in every good way that a thriller movie can be. Yeah. It's high pace. It's a lot of, mixed with action. And it's been a great time, honestly. And it's been very exciting, especially at the the point that we're at and watching Zero Balance grow is thrilling.
It's an adrenaline booster.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. That's great. That's great. Now, I always like to ask this question. This is my last question.
Oh, yeah.
This has been a great interview. What can anybody who's watching this, what can they do today to make today better?
To make today better. The one thing that always makes the day better, I always say this, is go and go outside, maybe walk, get some sort of blood flow going through your body. Go work out, go take a walk, whatever working out means to you. I always say, I never felt worse after I went and moved my body around. That's what I would do today. If you're in a rut today, if things are tough today, go move your body, go get your mind off things, and go focus on that, and it'll be a better day afterwards.
Sturge, you were wise. The brain is the body, and the body is the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they work hand in hand. So that's what I do. It's worked for me.
Sturge, thank you so much. I've enjoyed this a great deal.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Paul. It's been fun. Yeah, I'm excited. It's an exciting interview.
Great.